Alright, I have 2 sheets of plywood that I need to cut down per my cut list. I'm going to be using my track saw for all of this. If you don't have a track saw, you can certainly use a circular saw to achieve the same result. It just might take a little bit longer using a straight edge guide. But I have one of these, so that's what I'm going to use. Also, these little pink things that you see underneath the plywood are just some foam insulation. They're great if you just want to throw them on the ground or even on your workbench, and then you can just make the cuts right on top of them because your saw can cut into it and it won't cut into the ground. So let's start cutting. Now that I have everything cut to more manageable sized pieces, I can now take them over to the table saw to cut them to their exact dimension. And quick little tip, if you can, try to plan out your cuts in advance so you're not moving the table saw fence too many times, so you're not going from like 18 inches to 12 back to 18. So try to plan out everything in advance so all your pieces will line up and they'll all be the same exact dimension. Now that I have all of the pieces cut to their exact width, it's now time to take them down to their appropriate and exact length. And to do that, I'm going to be using my handy dandy crosscut sled. So I'm going to put them on here, I'm going to trim off one of the edges, and then I'll set up a stop block so I can batch out some repeated cuts. With all the pieces cut and sitting on my workbench, I'm going to take this opportunity to sand everything now. And as I'm sure you know, sanding is the most boring but critical part to any woodworking project. And I have found something to make the time go by a little bit faster and make the process seem a little bit more enjoyable, if that's even possible. And that is listening to audiobooks, which leads me to the sponsor of today's video, Chirp. Chirp is an online audiobook retailer, and they have amazing limited time deals on a wide variety of audiobooks. I'm talking hundreds of audiobooks on their site that are all the way up to 95% off. And the one thing that I love about Chirp is that there's no monthly commitments or subscription fees included within the service. So once you buy that book, it is yours to keep and listen to whenever. I recently picked up the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and that is what I'm going to be listening to as I sand all of these pieces. And I also came across this featured deal for Sahara by Clive Cussler for only $4.99. I'll definitely be picking that one up next. And Chirp has provided me with a discount code to share with all of you for 50% off your first audiobook purchase. So use Casual Builds 50 at checkout to receive that discount. So make sure you check the link down in the video description below and go get your first audiobook from Chirp today. I'm starting off by assembling the 2 outer vertical bookshelves. I've been going back and forth on how I wanted to do the joinery here. I thought about using pocket holes to start, but then I quickly realized there wasn't going to be enough clearance here to drill in some screws in the inside. I also thought about using dowels, but I do not have enough of them. And then I realized that I'm going to be painting this, so I'm not too concerned if there's screws on the outside because I can use wood filler to hide them, and then I'm just going to paint it afterwards. So I'm going to lay down some glue. I'm going to hold everything together with my brad nailer. And then I'm going to pre-drill and countersink and then drive in some 2-inch screws. All right, I think I know what I want to do next. I want to take this piece of plywood, I want to chop it up into little pieces, but more specifically, I want to take this down and then create the little support base that these bookshelf things will be sitting on. It's going to be 4 inches high because I don't want this thing to be like permanently set in this place in my daughter's room. I just want to lift it up a little bit so it clears the baseboards so I can push this up flush against the wall. Then I'm going to secure it after I put all of the bookshelf pieces together and then mount this underneath with probably some pocket holes. So once I have everything set, that's when I can start cutting out some of the pieces for the face frame, and then we'll go from there. So a quick little change of plans. I initially drilled some pocket holes on the inside here of the little toe kick, but if I screw in the screws from the inside, it's gonna go this angle and then kind of go out towards this end. And I believe it's best to have the pocket holes go in this way instead from the outside of the board. So instead I have them in clamps right now, and I'm gonna use the same process I did before when I made the bookshelves and just hold them together with some brad nails and then drill in some screws to keep them together. All right, so I want to attach the vertical bookshelves to this little seat piece here, and I'm having it temporarily resting on the little toe kick base because I know that it is nice and flat and my garage floor is not. So I'm going to line these in place, I'm going to clamp them down, and then I'm just going to drill in some screws from one of the side just to secure everything in place. Then we'll flip the whole piece over and then we'll attach the toe kick to the bottom. Oh, that's heavy.
There's that word again, heavy.
So now I'm going to take this piece of plywood, which fits right in between here, and this will be the back to the little seat area. But first, I'm going to trace or draw a little curve that will go right here, to which I will cut out on the bandsaw, and then drive in some pocket holes in the back just to secure it into place. So I have these two 1x6s, 8 feet long, poplar boards that I'm going to be using for the face frame. So I'm going to take them over to the miter saw and then my table saw, and then I am just going to get them down to the right dimensions and then assemble it on my workbench with some pocket screws. That way the whole face frame is together and it's just going to be a little bit easier to paint. So quick change of plans, thanks to my wonderful followers on Instagram. They have advised me that it is probably better for me to attach everything to the bookshelf and then paint everything. And since I do have a spray gun, I guess it will be a little bit easier. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to just put it on there and paint it later. So for the two outer vertical bookshelves, I'm going to add like a little, I don't know what you call it. It's like at the top of a castle. I'll throw up a picture so you get the reference. And I have these scrap pieces of pine boards that I will be using. So they have a chamfer on them. So I'm just gonna clean everything up at the table saw and then cut out some notches somehow. While I have this wood filler out, I'm going to fill all of the holes in the face frame left by my brad nailer. And really the rest of the whole project is just doing minor little details to get everything ready. And then, this project is complete. So if you've enjoyed the video so far, appreciate a subscribe if you are not already. Give it a thumbs up. That would really mean a lot to me and my channel and just getting my content out to others that might find it enjoyable. And if you've had any questions so far about the build or just want to tell me how ridiculous this thing is, leave a comment down below. Would love to hear from you. I've got the bookshelf all sanded and it's ready for paint, but before I paint, I'm going to wipe everything down with this tack cloth just to remove any of the sawdust, and it will help to make a cleaner and nicer finish. I'm going to attempt to make a cushion for the middle part of the bookshelf. I have some plywood that I already cut to size. I've got some fabric that I picked up from the store. I've got my staple gun. I've got some foam. And I also have no idea what I'm doing. The plan is that I'm going to cut this foam to size to match the plywood. I'm going to cut the fabric, wrap it over itself, and then staple it all together. But we'll see how it goes.